Meditation in India and Nepal. Upon arriving in India, I was surprised. A huge cultural change. Immense crowds, activity in the streets, bright colors, poverty and dirt. On top of that, it was fascinating to be in a completely different environment. The long journey reminded me one of my previous travels, but now I had an entirely different purpose. With great enthusiasm, after just 2 weeks, I attended a 10-day Vipassana course. Sitting in meditation for around 10 hours a day was very difficult. After a few days, I felt strong pain in my legs and hips. Sleeping on Indian beds felt like sleeping on the floor. We were in silence the entire time in a relaxed, natural environment. In the mornings we meditated from 4 to 6, then went for a walk at sunrise. Occasionally I experienced very peaceful states with sharpened senses, especially in the last days. I felt light and radiant states like never before. Men meditated on one side of the hall and women on the other. One part of the center was designated for men, the other for women. A woman from the US and I were the only foreigners. We could only talk on the last day. The Indians were very happy that 2 foreigners had joined the course, as very few ever came to this center. After the course ended, on the first day I experienced a radiant state of great inner happiness and peace. It felt so good that I wanted to tell everyone about it. I believe this was truly the best path and wish that others could experience the similar state. Then the state faded and I again wondered what to do next. I wanted to go on the next retreat, but I was told there must be at least a 3-month gap between courses. Their program is designed so that in everyday life one meditates 1 hour in the morning and 1 in the evening. This meditation technique is also applied in daily life and is not meant for long retreats away from ordinary life. During the course, I also met Ankit from India, who wanted to succeed in his own business. He invited me to his home for a few days, where I met his family. According to their saying, guests in India are like gods. From the moment I arrived, I felt like a member of their family. Then I went to Bodh Gaya, the most famous and visited Buddhist site in the world, where the Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. I finally arrived at the Mahabodhi temple. The familiar mantra could be heard loudly in the music. In the beautiful weather, I felt an exceptionally pleasant energy. Monks, nuns, and followers of all Buddhist traditions were coming from everywhere. I saw different meditation practices, sitting, standing, walking around the main temple, performing long prostrations, chanting mantras, offering flowers, incense, money, and monk robes at the main Buddha statue, and reading Buddhist texts. Prayers and loud readings of the text from all Buddhist traditions could be heard. Occasionally, groups with guides arrived, explaining the significance and history of the temple. This was the best place for me, so I stayed for 3 months. I met a Tibetan monk from Sikkim who was in charge of a Nepalese temple which had many rooms for visitors. He had an assistant and both were very kind. Soon we were like brothers. I was the only guest helping with cooking and eating together with the monks. I also met several other monks and nuns and learned more about different Buddhist traditions. I often visited various temples and meditated during hour-long prayers or pujas of the Tibetan monks. The experiences were extremely pleasant and it drew people in. Every day I meditated naturally for 6 to 8 hours, without forcing or overloading it to meditate as many hours as possible. Several times I stayed overnight at the Mahabodhi temple and meditated even with a very kind Thai monk. He asked me if we could walk around the temple and then we did 108 circuits, which left blisters next day. Footwear is not allowed inside the temple. That night I didn't sleep because I didn't have a mosquito net. I had to keep moving and covering myself for meditation. Most visitors stay awake all night to practice meditation. Several times I offered candles, incense, and other offerings because I believed it helped create good karma, advance in spiritual practice, and as a mark of respect to the Buddha, who showed the path to liberation from suffering. Next, I went to Igatpuri, the main Vipassana center. I volunteered for a month and completed a 10-day course. This time I experienced even more special spiritual states. Occasionally the mind was very restless. Memories, desires to change the past, searching for understanding, and internal dialogues appeared. All of this manifests as stress and problems compared to the bright light states without thoughts. The teacher said this is karma coming to the surface in the form of pleasant and unpleasant sensations. When you simply observe them without reacting, old karma dissolves and you don't create new karma through new reactions. During meditation retreats, there is no internet, music, reading, conversations, except 5 minutes a day with the teacher or eye contact with others. All of this distracts from focusing on the meditation object. In Goenka-style Vipassana, this is the observation of sensations from the top of the head to the soles of the feet. The body is scanned from top to bottom, very slowly at first, then progressively faster. Day by day, concentration increases. A big surprise was noticing what constantly goes through my mind. So many trivial and unnecessary thoughts that repeat day after day. Besides the Indians, I met Christian from Canada, Tobias from Germany, and Luis from Brazil. It was wonderful to meet like-minded people. We understood each other very well and had long conversations. The rest of the time I helped in the library and read some of the most interesting books about a well-known group of Thai forest monks. The teacher of this tradition was Ajahn Mun, who died in 1949. His successor, Lungta Mahabua, died in 2011 and wrote 3 extensive books. Their almost unbelievable stories and supernatural abilities were similar to the descriptions of the Buddha and his disciples. This fascinated me so much that I immediately wanted to join such a group of forest monks. I read these books in 2012. Today there are fewer monks who live completely alone or in small groups in forests and caves. I wanted to walk their path myself and experience it firsthand. I returned to Bodh Gaya and went on another Vipassana course. There I met 2 younger Indian monks, one of whom spoke English. He told me they had a monastery in the forest and that I could come there. After a long journey, one of his friends took me to his village where I met many people, and then to a small building for monks near the forest. Next to it, they were constructing a new building for Vipassana courses. They told me we need to wait for the teacher and then go together to the forest monastery. At first I decided to do a 10-day retreat alone in a small tent in the unfinished building. This was my first independent meditation retreat in silence. I went outside only twice a day, to eat until noon, to use the bathroom, take a shower, wash clothes, and for the evening meditative walk at sunset. There was only one monk there who cooked and cared for the place. We agreed not to speak for 10 days. Already after a few days of solitude, I became very kind, gentle, and smiling. All worldly desires, worries, and problems disappeared for most of the retreat. I often experienced very peaceful states. All material things and experiences through the 5 senses could not compare. Each 10-day retreat was better. Less pain, greater focus, longer calm and joyful states, and time passed incredibly quickly. After my retreat in the tent, we went into the forest, passed a small outdoor Hindu temple, and climbed stairs to a small hill. There was a large tree, and around its trunk was a stone enclosure, where monks sat. Under the tree was a large cloth for sitting and sleeping at night. There was only one small old building infested with so many rats that it was impossible to sleep at night. Excitedly, I went with an Indian monk to explore caves. He had previously meditated for a year in a cave. In the first cave, we encountered a sleeping bear. The place was called Tiger Forest, but wild animals had mostly retreated deeper into the forest because of people. Years ago, only a few monks lived there and often encountered tigers and king cobras. The Indian monks called it the Forest Monastery. I chose a cave, but the monks didn't let me stay alone overnight, so one monk slept near the entrance and I was inside. I meditated and slept while bats flew past me at night. This new experience was much more interesting than staying in the meditation center. I especially enjoyed meditating late at night and early in the morning when everything was quiet. I did not reach subtle and extended states of concentration as in the center because I talked during the day. Once in the afternoon, I meditated while the monk started doing some work, making noise. Immediately I thought, why now? I wanted silence, but there wasn't any. When I let go of that desire, that noise no longer disturbed me, and I could meditate calmly. I realized that it wasn't really the noise that bothered me, but my desire for it to not exist. When all desires disappear, peace and contentment remain in awareness itself, even amid noise. The head monk sat under the tree for 45 days. At night he slept only a few hours in a seated posture. During the day he walked for 1 hour and spent the rest of the time sitting. Under the tree he taught all who came, told stories, and conversed with visitors. Indian women in the forest cooked excellent food. There were also many monkeys around. After 1 month in the forest, I went to Nepal to Lumbini, the birthplace of Buddha. There I visited Panditarama, a meditation center that suited me better. On a retreat you can stay for up to 6 months, though not on your first visit. The meditation technique was different, but they also said that this method is the best and most original, tracing back to Buddha. Soon after, my friends Tobias and Christian, whom I had met at Dhammagiri, arrived as well. I meditated 1 hour sitting and 1 hour walking, at least 12 hours per day according to the center's program. Once a day we had short discussions with the monk teacher about meditation. In sitting meditation, I focused on observing the breath and sensations in the abdominal area. In walking meditation, I focused on the changing sensations in the feet. Here I became more familiar with life in meditation. The practice meant being aware of everything all the time. Thoughts, movements of the body, feelings, closing doors, cleaning, turning on water, etc., without getting lost in thoughts and remaining fully aware. This practice began from waking up until late at night when I fell asleep. Everything was done extremely slowly, as if life were in slow motion. This gradually developed stronger awareness and concentration. We ate breakfast and lunch, and afternoon only drinking was allowed. Often I ate very little, which further sharpened the mind and improved concentration. Sleep was limited to a maximum of 4 hours per day. Some hours were allocated to rest, cleaning the room, washing, and showering. We each stayed in our own beautiful wooden huts. There I experienced extended states of concentration, 1 hour without any thoughts arising, the breath becoming so subtle that I could barely feel my body. After such sitting meditation, I would go to walking meditation. Everything glowed, colors were vivid, and the sense of time and space disappeared. Everything seemed perfect, as if in another dimension. Sometimes I felt I understood everything, without thoughts or words. Then I went to Kathmandu, to a meditation center of the Mahasi tradition. There I was allowed to meditate alone in the old hall, while everyone else was in the new hall. I meditated 1 hour sitting, then slowly stood and walked for 1 hour, then sat again. After a few weeks, when my concentration grew stronger, I repeated this for up to 6 hours at a stretch. Some people left after just a few days because this lifestyle was too challenging for them. Again, I experienced many special spiritual states. After 1 hour of sitting meditation, I often felt intense pain in different parts of the body. A few times I decided not to move until the pain disappeared. I observed the sensation like hot energy, which intensified, diminished, or moved through the body. Several times the body began to tremble on its own, filled with burning energy. It felt like a matter of life and death. Only once did I endure long enough for the pain to disappear. It was late in the evening. I was sleepy and exhausted after a full day of meditation, yet these intense sensations gave me so much energy that I meditated for another 2 hours in deep concentration. I could sit in the pain because I did not think about it. I simply observed it. The purpose is to understand the nature of what we call pain. This was one of the meditation practices of Thai forest monks. Sometimes, after a long period of deep concentration, my mind would suddenly start working at full speed. Thoughts arose incredibly quickly and in all sorts of ways. With amazement, I became aware of everything happening in the mind on its own. Once I even started planning a long retreat in a cave. Then I caught myself, what am I doing? I'm already on the retreat, meant to meditate, and here I am daydreaming about the next one. Occasionally, I imagined explaining meditation to others and saw them as if they were also attending retreats. When a thought or image arises in the mind and you do not cling to it, it disappears. There follows a moment of emptiness, then a new thought arises. But if you cling to it and try to resolve it, it develops into a story that eventually also disappears. It could be a memory from the past, a fantasy, or a plan for the future. One story after another until I became tired of it all, and the mind simply surrendered into a thought-free state. After a month, I had to go to the city to extend my visa. I knew this would disrupt my concentration. In the car, I tried to meditate, focusing on the body so as not to get lost in the surroundings. While waiting for the visa, I went for tea and met a monk from Sri Lanka. I observed the waitress quickly cooking food and serving. It seemed strange to me how people could live like this. I only saw stress. I observed people on the streets and noticed how strongly they identified with their bodies, each locked in their own mental world. Beyond thought, however, there was endless peace, satisfaction, and freedom. I thought, it's a pity not everyone can experience this. When I returned, I told to my teacher how strange worldly people seemed to me. Because I felt such a strong difference in energy, the teacher said, they would think you are strange if they saw what you are doing. I really once saw a child watching me slowly walking in meditation through a window. When the mother came, she covered his eyes and turned him away. I had never thought about it before, but it's true. For someone who doesn't know what's happening, you look crazy, sitting all day like a statue and walking very slowly back and forth. After only a few hours in the city, I lost everything I had developed over a month of meditation and had to start again. The teacher told me that this is normal until the mind becomes calm and satisfied in all circumstances. I stayed another month, then had to return to India. When I left the center and walked through the streets, I felt a strong shield of energy around me that separated me from the outside world. Nothing could penetrate me, and I had to laugh. The feeling slowly faded. After each long retreat, I remained for several days in a calm and joyful state, free from any problems. Then I began again to consider where to go next. I returned to India and took another Vipassana course. After 1 year in India and Nepal, I spent about half of my time on meditation retreats and the other half visiting famous Buddhist sites. I still wasn't firmly decided on monastic life, and on top of that, I hadn't found a place where I could truly become a monk. I spoke with a friend who lived in England. He told me to come and work there, that he would help me arrange everything, and then I will decide what to do next. After 9 months of working in England, I finally realized that worldly life was truly not for me. I had demanding work and was meditating less and less. I was among people with a completely different way of life, interested in different things. Instead of 2 hours of peaceful morning meditation, I went to work, where some people were smoking outside and talking in anger and stress. I watched people who didn't want to be there but had to survive, just like me. During this time, my inner state worsened significantly. Even though I had spent a year traveling freely and meditating, concerns about survival, where to go and what to do when I ran out of money were still lingering in the background. One day my friend and I were sitting on a terrace at sunset. That was when I finally decided I am going to find a monastery, become a Buddhist monk, and never return to this way of life. The moment I made this decision, I became joyful and light. The burdens of worldly life instantly fell away. Everywhere I looked, I only saw stress and problems. I could not see any point in working for money if this way of life meant nothing compared to the life I had in India and Nepal on meditation retreats. I didn't know much about the life of monks. I thought it wouldn't be easy because I had only read stories of monks who lived in strict renunciation and practice. I imagined that all monks lived as I did during meditation retreats. I returned to India once again to Bodh Gaya. I knew I had to find a monastery somewhere in Asia in the Theravada tradition. Everything else seems too complicated. Some monasteries require staying 5 years with a teacher before going into solitude, which was not acceptable to me. I wanted to meditate for long periods soon, in a remote natural place. By that time, I had read about different traditions and meditation practices. Each tradition claims to be original or directly from the Buddha and often criticizes others. There is a lot of disagreement. Tibetan Buddhism has 4 main traditions, each with about 16 smaller branches, each with different teachings and practices. This often leads to disagreements over who is right. Tibetan Buddhism is called Mahayana, or the Great Vehicle, because its aim is enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. Their goal is to attain the state of a Buddha. Theravada Buddhism is called Hinayana, or the Small Vehicle, because its goal is personal liberation or the state of an arahant. This can make Tibetan monks view themselves as superior to Theravadins. On the other hand, Theravada emphasizes that their tradition, based on 42 books of the Tripitaka, is original from the Buddha's time, so they can claim that Tibetan Buddhism is not authentic. Even within Theravada in Thailand, there are two main lines, Mahanikaya and Dhammayuttika Nikaya, from which various practices have developed. Then there is Zen Buddhism. All of this seemed like an endless tangle, so I didn't dive too deeply. I noticed that all teachers were very narrowly focused on their own method of practice. Since I had tried many different meditation practices, I knew I wanted to be somewhere in solitude without teachers, which is mainly possible in the Theravada tradition. Moreover, it is also the simplest. One evening I was sitting in Mahabodhi, where a group of Thai monks was performing evening prayers. At that moment, I had an inner vision as if I were one of them, and I decided to go to Thailand. It also seemed that Thais were the most kind and respectful toward their monks. But that wasn't the most important thing, since I intended to live as much as possible in solitude, which is also best for meditation. Soon after, I met a Thai monk who invited me to Thailand and promised to help me find a forest monastery. Then I took a train to Hampi. I had previously found online a very interesting and mysterious place for a meditation retreat. It was a very beautiful place, far from the tourist village. We reached it by boat as it was on the other side of a small stream. Along the river was a rocky and sandy area with a few small houses. There I met the owner of the place, Horst from Germany, who had some assistants from India. They took care of everything necessary and cooked meals for visitors who came for spiritual retreats. Horst showed me all 12 caves, among which I had to choose one. After a long time, I finally spent another month and a half in a meditation retreat, alone in a cave. I only met other people when I went for food, but we didn't talk. Many evenings I lit a small fire and meditated late into the night. One evening I clearly and loudly heard prayers in Thai, as if monks were praying right next to me. Later I met someone who had the same experience and said that the sound came from the spiritual beings. I quickly got back into the rhythm of 10 hours of meditation per day. In the natural environment and higher states of consciousness, I felt excellent again. The changes in the mind were still very pronounced, from states of complete peace and radiance to stressful states of longing for greater focus, better understanding, and progress. I read a book on Dzogchen and practiced all the meditations I knew, which I had enough of it all. I just watched and rested in pure awareness without effort of practice. This turned out to be the strongest state. Thoughts did not arise, so there was no questions or answers. All concepts lost their meanings, and only awareness remained. Body sensations and breathing became very subtle, or for a time completely disappeared. The sense of time and space also disappeared. The thoughts began to rise again. I am here and meditating. Which meditation is best? Where does it lead? What should I do now? With this came questions, answers, and beliefs. The result was doubt and confusion because I believed in these concepts. I didn't even understand whether emptiness was the end of the path or if there was something more. Did I need to understand and experience something even deeper in meditation? Even in this place, I had many special spiritual experiences. The weather was sunny and beautiful, and I meditated on the rocks by the river and on the grass. Sometimes I would sit for an hour without thoughts. Only awareness remained, which was in itself radiant, peaceful, and content, without words or concepts to describe such an experience. I also saw the other side of how the mind operates, thoughts and images that say, do this and that, go there, and then everything will be fine. If you follow them, it would never be as the mind promised. I understood this as the deception of thoughts. Sometimes it was so intense that I almost broke the retreat and followed the desires. But then I realized that the mind had tricked me. I realized the mind's strong tendencies to want to be something and to achieve something. Sometimes a thought would arise. Why are you here alone in silence and meditation? You are of no benefit to anyone. You should go among people and help them with meditation. I saw myself teaching others and everything looked perfect, but when I actually went among people, I immediately wished to return to solitude. I realized how cleverly the mind invents tricks to pull you away from retreat. After the retreat, I spoke with Horst. He had many books on spirituality. I saw how differently people understand the Buddhist teachings, meditation techniques, and the meaning of it all. Sometimes it seemed to me that the more people think and talk, the more complicated everything becomes with less clarity. There is an enormous amount of knowledge about spirituality, but mostly it is just a lot of words that are quickly forgotten. During sitting meditation, beyond thoughts, these problems don't exist. Everything becomes simple, peaceful, and clear. Later, I went for a few days to a tourist area, where I met a vendor again. He asked me where I had been all that time, and was surprised when I said I had been meditating in the nature. I gave him my laptop, knowing that I would soon become a monk and would no longer need it. According to Buddhist teaching, it is good before becoming a monk to give away everything you have as a final material offering if you choose the life of monasticism.